Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode 277. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google Plus and the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group. With us tonight we have Jenny Halaz. Jenny is an SEO based in Raleigh, in the USA. She's well known in the SEO world. She speaks on the SEO circuit, and we're very glad to have you with us, Jenny. I hope you can join us more often.
I'd like that.
Oh, cool. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net in the UK. He is based in Wimbledon, and he's also a Google top contributor on the Google AdSense community. Micah Fisher-Kirshner is head of SEO for Turn River Capital. He's also president of the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area, I guess that is, meetup group. But I'm sure you can give me a better name there, Micah.
It's the Bay Area Search.org and president of the SF SEO Meetup Association.
Thank you, mate. And Mike is also a regular on the public speaking circuit. And Tim Capper. Tim Capper, he's CEO of onlineownership.com. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. You can find Tim at onlineownership.com. All right, let's get on to our first question. For some reason or other, my camera's not working either, Jenny. All right, let's see. I'll tweet that. Our first question is from Jules and asked on how can I contact Google to change something. Good luck with that plan. Jules said, hey, one of my clients is a local restaurant. When I type his restaurant's name into Google, I can see what's on the picture. Problem is the outside exterior picture is 3 years old and it was the front of the previous restaurant. Now the name is not the same. How can I contact Google to remove or change it? I have access to Google My Business. Thanks.
Yeah, okay, so what he's looking at is the actual street view. So until the actual street view car comes around again, that street view is not going to be updated at all. However, there is a slight workaround. You can't replace it, but you can add in your own street view. So you just download the Street View app. Go out there. I don't know how close you are. If you can actually do it, then you can go and Street View app and take some nice images of the new restaurant, and that'll be stitched into the current Street View. If you can't, just what I know, if clients are miles away, just create a little. Obviously, they have to download the app and then just do a little Word doc for them on how to. It's pretty simple. It opens up. You take your pictures. You name the location in the app, and it stitches it in. So although you can't replace it, there is another option to at least add an updated Street View into the current Street View. That's about all you can do until the Street View car comes around again.
Thank you, Tim. All right. Anybody else? Anybody would like to add something to that? All right. Let's go to the next. This one from Neil Cheeseman on how best to list multiple venues. He said, on a website, how best to list multiple venues, about 50, that are not owned, but tickets are sold for, and not the only website that sells tickets for that particular venue. I assume Google My Business is out of the question. How about schema markup? Any other suggestions?
Take a look at the larger scale sites. That would be Eventbrite as just one example. These are essentially venues, well, they're essentially websites that just sell tickets for a number of venues. You can at least see how they set up their structure, and they do a pretty good job, including as Ellen has in the comment there, the use of schema. That will at least get you along the way. A lot of I've seen them in the past that they often rank fairly well when it comes to kind of venues and tickets for events. And that's one of the many. If you really do look at the larger scale sites, that should give you at least some idea of where you want to be heading with your structure and how to get yourself listed.
Excellent. Anybody else? All right, let's call that an answer for Neil, and we'll move to the next. Not sure how many questions we have tonight. Ted Rinched said in a question titled, "I'm not sure how to fix a canonical issue." He said, mywebsite.com/canonical. Okay. I did a software audit and it says the canonicals should be changed to match my original website URL. How do I get rid of the /?
Sounds like this is a CMS challenge here. If the / is showing up as the canonical, is he saying this is the, it's hard for me to understand whether he's saying the rel canonical is the / or if he's saying the actual canonical is the /. And I would just say you need to make both of them match up. But I see some notes there from Don that indicate that John said it doesn't matter. So I would make it match up, but that's just me.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay, let's tweet that and we'll wander on to the next. All right, Andre, thank you, Jenny, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
Andre Osorio has a question titled, "Google has one of my pages indexed with 2 different title tags." Andre said, "What's up, everyone? I need your input. Google has one of my pages indexed with 2 different title tags. Any idea why that would happen?"
Yep, what Bonnie says there is absolutely correct. Google will change the title tag to use whatever, if there's a keyword that was used in the search query that Google thinks there's a better version of the title tag that uses that keyword to increase the click-through rate, then they'll just go ahead and change it.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you're not using your brand, they will put that back in. So you need to make sure kind of whatever the, let's just say top query is, you just need to make sure, as Jenny noted, to have that there. But if you're running multiple queries, you're going to see that more than not change based on said query.
And they have a reason for doing it. I mean, they can get it wrong sometimes, and it can be obnoxious sometimes as an SEO when you're trying to control it, or as a brand manager when you're trying to control how the website is referenced. But the reason that Google does it is because they think they can increase your click-through rate by including that keyword in the title.
Yep. Okay, let me tweet that. Kadre Kismaz has a question titled, "Is the limit for Meta now up to 320 characters?" Kadri asked or said, rewriting some meta descriptions and we'll try to add more semantic keywords into them. Is the limit for meta now up to 320 characters? Has somebody experimented with long meta descriptions? Thanks.
Glenn Gabe, I believe, is the one who's been, I've seen at least, who's been experimenting. I think he noted it was about 306, roughly. You get that fourth line is just a touch that you get in there. I haven't actually tried to personally do that myself, but I think it's roughly around that. I don't know if anybody else has been experimenting on the exact amount, but check Glenn Gabe on Twitter. He's done a few things back and forth there.
I have something to say on this.
Okay.
You can experiment with it all you want. I do not understand why Google is doing this. This makes absolutely no sense when they're talking about going mobile first, when they're talking about, making sure that your website is really accessible on mobile, that your descriptions are optimized for mobile. Like, why on earth would they put a 320 or 306 character description on mobile? It doesn't make any sense to me. So from that perspective, I haven't even been messing with it. I haven't rewritten any of the descriptions for any of my clients. I don't plan to. I'm much more concerned about how they're performing on mobile than I am about some stupid extended description that I think has got to be just temporary. That's okay. I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah. Funny enough, I haven't really seen any extended descriptions being displayed for any of my clients outside of the hotel industry. And funny enough, Google doesn't display the extended in desktop, but they display the extended in mobile results, which is great for me because you've got to scroll down, then they don't display it for the whole page. They tend to display it for the first, 3 to 4 top results, which is great because if you're in the 3 to 4, 1 to 4, then literally nobody, it's really big scrolling down, and generally people give up after the 5th one. So, hey, I'm happy. So you stick with it. But yeah, it's in mobile.
Why would they do it? It doesn't make any sense. It can't possibly improve click-through rate on mobile. I think this is one of those things where Google's testing something. We're all going to run around and make changes, and then they're going to go, never mind, just kidding. Sort of like authorship.
Yeah, I'm okay with it because I always told people to do 300 characters anyway. So when they because I had the philosophy of it's visually 150, but if you can get it up a little longer, then sometimes when Google's looking for the longer tail terms, they'll use the other part of the meta description. So it's kind of a nice balance. So when they went to 300, I was done. I didn't need to do anything. So I don't have that same frustration. I understand. But obviously, like, having the consideration now of like, do I want to work with others and have them go that long? I recognize that's kind of annoying, but I do wonder if maybe the test does show it just looks nicer if it's a little bit longer on mobile, because now they have that kind of card layout, and I don't know if that's enough that might create this different perception than it would otherwise.
They actually changed the actual size of the image, especially with hotels. So, you can really, if you play it right, you can really, you can fill the screen almost. So you've got the extended description, and because the description, is extended, the image gets increased. If you use your review data markup, then you get your stars appearing after the description. And then if you're using your price markup, and you don't obviously add the price, but you add something like best rate guaranteed, which I do direct, then all of a sudden you've got the stars, and then you've got another snippet going best rate guaranteed direct, and you're literally filling up the screen, and it's really impressive. And so, yeah, I mean, I like it.
Well, to get back to what Micah said, I've absolutely recommended to clients that they not worry too much about the length of the description and more about just kind of what they're trying to say, because I agree with you. If you can get those other terms in there, then you can have a little more control over your tags, which we were talking about earlier. Just as Google rewrites title tags, they also rewrite meta descriptions. So you get a little bit more control. But I mean, in terms of gaming the system and taking up valuable real estate, sounds like Tim's got it locked. I mean, might as well, right? If that's the only difference between you and the competitor, then have at it. But if you've got other issues that you need to be focusing on first, rewriting meta descriptions, I just don't think is your best play in terms of return on investment.
Yeah. And of course, Google's always hot desking and bringing in engineers to look at new facets and so on. So maybe one of them looked up and said, how many characters is this supposed to be? Micah says 300. That must be what it is.
That is exactly it. I'm sure of it. Yeah, it could just be a cock-up. I mean, if you look at GMB, right? And some spammers have figured this out and they take full advantage of it. But so address line, you have your main part of your address, and they so you'll call it, let's say 170 Peel Street. But then you add address line 2, and literally you can add and add and add and add address line, and you can just spam the crap out of it. You can literally have name after name after name, up to get this, 10,000 characters in your address. Yes, Google, and you still haven't changed it since I've been banging on for 2 years. Who needs 10,000 characters for an address? This is like an open invitation for spam. It's just some engineers just, hey, the asses.
Yeah, so many smart people, so many dumb outcomes. Okay, let's we call this an answer for this one. All right, let's go to the next. This one from Ashley Brennan-Steele. It's titled, "What's the best way to figure out what your customers are searching for when it comes to a specific product?" He said, "Sorry this is so long." Not half as sorry as I am. He said, "I just had my Magento e-commerce website revamped and I'm working on creating blog content and rewriting 6,000 product descriptions. This all seems overwhelming to tackle and I have a lot of questions. One, what's the best way to figure out what your customers are searching for when it comes to a specific product? Example, candy coatings versus candy melts versus confectionery coatings. Can I use all of these keywords, or should I pick and stick to one? Two, can I use the same description and meta description across multiple products that are the same but have different colors and just change the color name across the descriptions? For example, pink candy coatings and blue candy coatings both have the same description, except that one says pink and one says blue. 3, oh God, how long is this going to go for? Should I be including my keyword at the beginning of product descriptions and meta descriptions? Does it have to be the first word? 4, when I search for this product on Google, my blog page with directions to melt candy coatings comes up first page on Google, but my product category page does not. What's the best way to utilize this? And 5, any tips on writing meta descriptions? Should price be included? How do I decide what's the best info to include? Thank you. We got to the end.
Why don't you just send that one to me and I'll answer it in Search Engine Journal's Ask the SEO next week. Because that's a whole blog post.
Nice. Oh, man. Okay, let's see. So, 1, if you want to go straight to the source, use Google AdWords Keyword Planner. Otherwise, you can use a tool like SEMrush to get that data. Scroll up again. I forget all the other ones. Number 2.
Also on one. Oh, let's take them one at a time.
I'm just doing quick.
Also on one, do a search for the keyword and see if your competitors come up or if another, see what's coming up and whether that seems like it's the right match for what you do or not.
Yeah, and I think it's important to track the conversion rates for these different keywords so that you know that which customers are buying your stuff. Other than seeing, oh, where do I rank? You have to trace what funnels are working in terms of conversion. So I think that's how I would try to phrase that question.
And if you still don't have any definite, you can always go out there and do a lot of consumer testing. I mean, Google, there's loads of things out there, and essentially they're presented with a picture of your product, and your question is, how would you find this on Google? There's loads of different companies out there. Google even does it. I think for $100 they'll interview 1,000 people or something. So yeah, if you can't get anything decent, ask humans. Here's the picture. What would you search to find this?
Okay. Anybody else?
No, go to number 2 now.
Yeah, that's only
I think number 2 is the description or meta description. If you scroll up.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. This is kind of a fun one in my opinion. At small scale, I think I'm okay. Yes, you could use the same description, meta description, with just kind of a color differentiation. But as you scale up, that becomes a larger issue. In my view, you start to hit potentially then very little difference, and you can create a lot of low quality content if that's the case. Sometimes if there's no volume difference and people are just looking for the candy coatings and they're not really looking for a specific color, then you don't necessarily want to have too many of basically the same product, and you can just have one page of candy coatings of which one filter is choosing the separate colors. Smaller scale, it's fine. I think that you have different pages and just minor differences, but then as you scale up, you're going to have to actually create a differentiation between them.
Thank you, Micah. All right, let's go to the next.
Number 3.
Oh. My next question. I think we've covered that, and he wants to write about it. All right.
Sure.
Number 7, MQ Kilji asks a question which is titled, "Does it affect my SEO for having 2 numbers on each Google My Business listing?" MQ said, "I have 2 phone numbers on my website. I want to keep my toll-free main number and 1 local number for each location. I have 30 different locations in the United States. My question is, does it affect my SEO for having 2 numbers on each Google My Business listing? Which one should be my primary number and alternate number on the listing? Thank you."
Well, I'm hoping Tim will jump in here because I don't know a ton about local SEO, but I do know that for Google My Business, you generally want to use your local number as your primary number. And then your 800 number would be a secondary. But Tim may have some additional thoughts on that if he's still with us.
Sorry, Jenny, what was that?
I said, did you hear any of what I said?
Yeah, I heard it. It's just that I didn't take it in.
Okay, I didn't know if I was having a technical problem here.
No.
No, I'm just saying Tim is better at these kinds of questions, so I'm just jumping in because it looks like he stepped out for a minute. But from what I understand, your primary number should be your local number with your local area code, and if you want an alternate number, that would be your 800.
Yeah, that sounds logical. Anybody else? It looks like Tim has been taken away, so sadly we'll have to move on to the next. I'll just tweet this. Okay, JL Faverio asked the question titled, how long does it take for review markup to show in search engine results pages? In some cases, it could take forever.
Yeah, I think Ronnie Lawson Jones there has it right. It's totally up to Google. If you normally have your reviews show up, then the next time that Google crawls that page, they will probably add that markup as well, but there's absolutely no guarantee.
Yeah. All right, anybody else? Okay, let me tweet that. Here's one from Randy Milanovic. It's titled, your thoughts on changing the property name and the default URL in Google Analytics when changing domains. One, he gives us some options. 1, 2, and 3. And 3 is, are you crazy? Yep, you're right. Got me in one.
Well, there's two different things. So the property name, you can change anytime you like. It has no impact on anything at all. That's totally on your end. And yeah, so change that anytime you like. And just a note, probably make it something other than all website traffic, because it's hard once you have multiple properties to figure out which one you want to actually use. As far as the default URL, you need to change that. If you don't change that, well, first off, none of the functionality in Google Analytics will work. So nothing that you're trying to click to, any subfolder that you try to click through, if you're looking at like landing pages or anything like that, is going to be wrong because it's going to insert that default URL. So yes, you should change it. It doesn't have any impact whatsoever on your traffic, though.
Thank you, Jenny. Anybody else? Thanks. If you become a regular on here, Jenny, I'm going to have to pick up my Forrest Gump DVD and see if I can...
No. Way too many references to that in my lifetime.
Okay. All right. Here we have one from Katerina Lujak. Katerina said, how do you refine Google Analytics customer location traffic depending on server location and IP address? Katerina went on to say, IP can be completely misleading for determining where your traffic is coming from, and having host servers in one country and physical location in another Thanks.
Let's see what Alan had to say, because he probably has it right.
He's Alan Blue-Eyes, and by the way, I should call out our forum heroes that answer questions on the Dumb SEO Questions Facebook group through the week. We thank them very much. Alan said in reports that allow a second dimension to be set, you can choose users, then city.
Yeah, you can also take a look at their network, but you can't take a look at their IP. That's generally considered to be PII. You can exclude IPs if you have that personally, but if you're just trying to look at kind of what other information they're coming from, yeah, network location will do it. Server kind of information, essentially as a secondary dimension, will help with that. And then sometimes you can do that as a custom report as well, is kind of setting up how you want to do it as a drill down if you prefer for specific areas. And then if you want to do it as a custom segment, advanced segment, or segment filter, I think it's called now, you can actually set that up so if you only want to see a very specific one across the whole profile, just temporarily, then that's another option for you.
Thank you, Micah. All right, let's go to the next. This one from Adrian Tyler. Good question. He says, what makes a backlink spammy? And is there something out there that can check the health of a backlink?
Okay, I'm going to link drop here. I just wrote an article on this for Search Engine Journal. Let me find it and I will put it in the notes. It's not an easy question to answer. So that's why I wrote the article. But in general, I tell people to go with their gut. If it seems like it's a quality link, then it probably is. And if it seems like it's spam, then it probably is. Here is that article. But I also think these community answers are spot on. A lot of times the automated tools don't catch things or catch things that are good. I highly recommend any of the tools mentioned: SEMrush, Ahrefs, Majestic SEO, Moz has a, what is it, Open Site Explorer. Lots and lots of tools out there that can tell you the relative health of a backlink.
Yep. A lot of one in particular, which is very, very good, but shall remain nameless because they mark as a toxic link a domain which might be seen to be low authority. They seem to judge toxicity to not having a lot of other links pointing to that site, and that's not necessarily right. Let Google sort out what's spam or not. They say, if you can believe them, that they ignore many links. So yeah, I'd rely on that. And but I think the question is, if you have to ask the question, what makes a backlink spammy? Maybe look at your practices. Maybe you are just naturally doing. If you think there's something wrong with it, don't do it. you should be able to justify in your own mind, the work you're doing is valuable. Anyway, let me tweak that, and if nobody else wants to add any more, we can go to the next. Okay. Ryan Logan is curious about how others approach services pages, the parent page. Please see the scenario below. I hope this is not long. Sitemap, home, services, service one, and services, and in tabs, service one, service two, service three. Homepage below the fold. All services, all three of them, have a sentence or two, along with a graphic icon and a button that links to the service child page. Services page is currently empty. The navigation lists the page, but it's a dead link. Service one page, landing page for the service, and off we go. I wish that were true. We often see this scenario where the service's parent page is just there and there is a struggle to find valuable content that hasn't already been mentioned on the home page, and more importantly, the service's landing page. Do you all at least put something on the service's parent page, or do you approach it like I'm often approaching it, having services as a dead link and simply being used for navigational purposes? Thank you.
I'm just reading the other responses here. I mean, from a user perspective, I would never have a dead services page. Either link it or don't link it. And if you link it, put something on it. So don't have a situation where somebody can click on services and expect to go to a page about services and then not have your services listed there. That's just obnoxious from a user perspective. Doesn't mean you couldn't have services as a top nav category. Just use a drop down or something instead of, and then if you click on services, maybe you go to the first service page or something like that. But that's all usability type stuff. In terms of SEO, I like what, I'm going to butcher this name, Juliana Cronrod says in the community, where she talks about, maybe it shouldn't even be called services. Maybe it should be called something else. Services is kind of a lame thing that just doesn't describe what you do. So if you are a hospital, then you don't want to list services, you want to list treatments, or heart. You might list it as heart and orthopedic and like that. Ultimately, I think it sounds like this site needs a little bit of work from an information architecture perspective, more so than an SEO issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and look, I often think that like when we're saying user experience, when we put it down to that, it means that we're losing sight of what we're actually doing. I mean, the whole point about having a website is to disseminate information and to users. Our aim should always be the user experience. Everything else that doesn't have the same, doesn't take the same precedence, and then we can call ourselves SEO when the user is satisfied. We've fulfilled our purpose. Anyway, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. Okay. Niraj Kumar, this is not so much a question, but it starts off as a question, so it stayed in. But where are the Google penalties was the question. He said, dumb SEO questions. We are to follow the rules of Google, perhaps. See the page, and he gives a link of a video download site. Looks
Yeah,
like
not sure I would actually follow that link. Anybody who's hanging out watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just I wouldn't follow a link that's written like that.
Okay. I didn't realize I've been caught again. All right. Well, look, before I put my foot in it even further, I'll throw this one open because it really is just a gripe from Niraj. Niraj is a great supporter of ours. He's been following what we've been doing almost since day one.
Oh, if that's the case, the link is probably okay then. I'm sure you wouldn't list something that was bad. I didn't realize we had history with him. I mean, it seems like he's just frustrated that there's garbage in Google's listings, and there's gonna be. There always has been, there always will be, and I mean, you can report it, you can some of the some of the comments. You can report it, but it's, you know, they're gonna be getting to it eventually. It's probably just something that will be dealt with algorithmically eventually. Maybe a DMCA request if there's actually a copyright infringement happening. It's just garbage. It just slips through. I mean, as long as there are spammers, there will be garbage.
Yep. All right, let's go past that one to Josu Sanchez Arnaldo, titled Spammy Links. Josu,
I think we have a theme going here.
He said, hi to everybody. I made a YouTube video with a link to my website in the description. The video has been shared by many garbage sites, and by garbage sites, I mean automated sites that randomly copy YouTube videos in their own sites. And because the link of my page is on the description of my video, Google Search Console tells me that I have around 100 sites pointing at my website. I'd like to know if those links are good or are considered spam. Lately, I've been going down some positions, and I wonder if that could be the cause. Should I disavow all of those links, or do they still benefit my site? They are natural links after all.
I mean, you're going to get spammy links generally anyway. There's junk search engines, sites that are just going to link to something, to rather randomly legitimate websites just so that they can hide their crappy links. On its own, normally it wouldn't be something I would, for the most part, worry about. As long as you've got good links, you're going along. For the most part, it would be something I wouldn't be concerned about.
I agree with Micah. If you want to do a disavow and try it out, that's fine. You can always reverse a disavow by just taking it back down. But in general, all link profiles are going to build up just detritus over the years, and Google expects that and just discounts that garbage. Really, the only time you really should need to do a disavow is if you know that either you've done something that is not appropriate or you think a competitor may have done something that's not appropriate.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, let's move on to the next, unless anybody else has something to add. All right, so let's go. Casey Marquis, he said Googlebot added. I read this. Thought this is a very interesting question. But anyway, Googlebot added /common/Ajax before the link and caused a 404. He said, this is pretty interesting. It was sent to me by a top 100 e-tailer. What's he saying there? Sorry, can't read it. Has anyone seen this before? What advice would you pass along to their internal team? I won't try and read all that out. Save me here, please, somebody.
I'm reading.
And I don't know if this is the case, but I've seen them try to put different JavaScript lines together to create URLs. So there's a possibility that they were trying to make the best guess of your script to create what they thought was a URL link, and that might be what's happening here. Without really seeing the code and what's showing up, I can't say for certain on my end, but I just know that I've literally seen them try to create something where we're using it as a tracking script, and we were breaking it up as just regular script that was listing out a URL, and they were basically merging it together, following the URLs, and then just creating a ton of junk pages that wasn't actually real. So that's one possibility to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most likely possibility. Google's gone on record several times, and John Mueller again just recently said that you don't need to worry about these 404s if they were never valid pages, and you don't have any concerns about users getting to these that you think users should be able to get to these pages and they can't, then you can pretty much disregard them. I've definitely seen Google try pages that we know never existed just because, I don't know, their search bot doesn't have enough to do. And it goes and tries pages that it just puts together. I think it's maybe part of the machine learning aspect of the system. It's learning how pages are typically put together and trying to make that happen on other websites. That's totally conjecture. I know nothing about that, just totally conjecture that it might be. But I don't think, either way, I don't think you have anything to be concerned about.
Yeah. All right, let's tweet that and we'll move on to the next. This one from Toka Janalides. He wants a brief explanation of how a Google automatic penalty works. He said, let's say the website received an automatic penalty due to low quality links. One, will the penalty be removed after some time if the links are still there? Or is link removal / disavow required to ever recover? Two, if the website will get high quality links, will they have the same effect they would have on a penalty-free website? Does the website lose current rankings, or is it kept down for some period of time and will not rank well no matter what?
So let's just, so automatic penalty, I'm assuming that this person means algorithmic action as opposed to manual action. So for number one, the answer is no, it won't be removed if the links are still there if it's an algorithmic action. If it is a manual action, it will eventually expire. However, in most cases, if the manual action expires, it will be followed by another manual action. So it's not always, link removal disavow is not always required to recover, but you may need to either way. Can you put the question back up?
Yeah, it's oh, okay, I can reset it. There we are.
And the second one, if the website gets high quality links so they have the same effect they would have on a penalty-free website. Marie Haynes has a really good theory about this that I like and have kind of adopted, and that's the idea of your bad links being sort of like an anchor pulling you down. And so if you have bad links and they're pulling you down, yes, getting high quality links will have the same effect they would have on a penalty-free website, except that you get these good quality links up here and your anchor is still pulling you down. So they will technically have the same effect. Google's not going to devalue your high quality links because you have low quality links, but when you balance them out, your low quality links are going to continue to pull you down.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, I've always liked that ever since I first heard her talk about them being like an anchor. I think it's a good call. Does the website only lose current rankings or is kept down for some period of time? Yeah, I mean, same thing. So, and it depends on where the link action is. If it's on a few areas of the site as opposed to the overall domain, you know, you may lose current rankings, you may not. I had a client one time that had a significant algorithmic penalty on the heels of a manual penalty, and they basically stayed the same. They had been growing 20-30% a year for some time, and then when they got those penalties, they didn't lose anything, but they stayed exactly the same. Again, that kind of anchor pulling you down. But there's a subtext to that question that I want to get in also, and that is, if you're a repeat offender, there's all kinds of evidence to show that, yes, you'll be held down longer. There's no proof of that. I can't say that for certain, but there's lots of evidence that indicates that you'll be held down, especially if you've done it multiple times. If you've had multiple manual actions or multiple algorithmic actions, you may see 6 months to a year before you can do well again.
Yep. Cool. Anybody else? All right, let me tweet that. And it's that time again. It's thank you for watching time. We still have people looking at us, and we thank you for that. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile, and we appreciate that very much. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again, but for now, it's good night.